Hello, my name is Gerald Merlin Porter, and I'm the dad to Gerald Christopher Porter. And I want to tell you about one day in 1989. I was home with my son during the day, and he said, "Hey, Dad, let's go to the show tonight." I said, "Fine, that's great with me, Jer. What time we going to go?" And he said, "Well, midnight to see Indiana Jones." And I said, "Midnight?" He said, "Yes, that's it." So we did go. We went to see Indiana Jones, and I didn't get home till about 3:30 a.m. And that's what happens when you say you want to go to the show with your son.
Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones, Indiana. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we ride single file through the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, 1 minute at a time. I am Tom Taylor.
I'm the Admiral, Pete Mummert.
I'm the intern, Gerry Porter.
And we are here to discuss minute 1 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Wow.
Minute 1. It's got like 2 zeros in front of it. Minute 1. That's crazy.
Minute 1.
Maybe only one
Yeah.
zero. How long is this movie? Who knows? Anyway, minute 1 begins with the Paramount logo, and it ends with a credit for Allison Duty over a line of Boy Scouts on horseback.
That's spoiler.
What?
I'll get there. I guess before we jump into the minute, though, I thought I'd talk a little bit about what happened before this came out, because when Temple of Doom came out, it broke all kinds of records. You know, like it had amazing success, and Spielberg had some kind of second thoughts about it after some of the reviews. But
Oh, you're kidding.
It's still
Soul searching, was he?
yeah, you could say that. But Raiders had broken, by the time Temple of Doom came out, Raiders had already broken the all-time record also for home video sales, even displacing Jane Fonda's workout video.
Get out of here.
And it sold more than 1 million copies. And so after Temple of Doom had blazing success, it was pretty much preordained that there was going to be the third in the trilogy that they had already agreed to. And so just a couple of months after Temple of Doom was released in September of 1984, George Lucas finished typing up his famous 8-page story treatment called Indiana Jones and the Monkey King.
I remember it well.
Yeah.
How old were you when that movie came out?
It's got some wacky stuff, and we'll get into some of that later on in this minute. But just one thing in J.W. Rinsler's book I really like is he points out some of the elements that the Monkey King had in this original George Lucas treatment that we got in this movie. We got a boat chase, we got a foreboding castle in Scotland, we got a female archaeologist, we got a package mailed to Indy, we get Brody back, we get a German tank, and the possibility of eternal life. And everything else was different. But there was right after that, there's a cool memo in Rinsler's book, too, that George Lucas wrote to Debbie Fine, who was a researcher at Lucasfilm, asking her for information about the Holy Grail. And it's interesting because he was looking at more the pagan version of the Holy Grail than the one we get in this movie. But he was already thinking about this pretty early on, even though, as we'll see, Spielberg kind of fought him every step of the way.
They seem to do a lot of that.
What's the pagan version of the Holy Grail? Is it that Ponce de Leon nonsense? The fountain of youth in Florida? Because I've been to Florida, a lot of retirees. But
Yeah, that's why you look so youthful.
what's the pagan version of the Holy Grail?
Like the Arthurian version of the Grail, which wasn't the cup that Christ drank out of. It was just like a vessel, and it would lead to whatever. You would have eternal life, or you would have whatever.
Wow.
We all saw Excalibur.
Yeah, it wasn't tied to the cup that Christ drank from.
Yeah, religion had to come in again and ruin everything.
Although we do get our third major religion here, so we're slowly working through the encyclopedia.
How many are there? My God.
That's true. I just
Yeah.
heard there's over 10,000.
Ah, we're gonna be here
I
forever.
did.
Really?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah. It's over 10,000.
Can they
religions.
all be major if there's 10,000 of them?
No.
I guess it
no,
depends on who you ask.
No. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. It's relative. If it's yours, Tommy,
Right.
then it's yours.
I'm godless.
Well, Godless Tom and Gerry, we start this one once again, like we did our last two, with the Paramount Mountain.
Yeah.
And I have to say, right from the start, I'm a little bit disappointed that they fade from from the Paramount Mountain to a literal mountain in Utah, and it has still not been Lomond.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Would that have
That's
made
a good point.
Would that have made any sense though? Like for where they're supposed to be?
Probably
or-
not.
Okay.
Probably not. I just liked the original design for the Paramount Mountain was
Yeah.
in Utah,
Yeah.
so they did have a shot to do it here.
That's actually wow. That's a really good point. The first thing I noticed, the first noticeable thing, the Last Crusade begins with sort of, I guess what you'd call a quote. Well, it's kind of like a Hollywood traditional Native American tribal theme, right? Kind of
Yeah.
like a hey,
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so is that supposed to be some sort of thread of continuity here between the Temple of Doom and the Last Crusade? Maybe connecting the two, because the Temple of Doom took place in India,
Oh, Gerry.
and the Last Crusade starts with, quote, Indians. And then I thought, Christopher Columbus. He knew that he hadn't landed in the Far East, but he kept calling the indigenous people there of Hispaniola Indians. And I thought about it, it was like, well, if he actually admitted to Ferdinand and Isabella that he hadn't landed in the Far East, it would have been a breach of contract.
Well, I should point out that by the time this airs, there's not going to be a Columbus Day anymore anyway. It's going to be Indigenous Peoples Day, so no one's going to know
That's
what you're
true.
talking
It's
about.
already, where I live, it's called Indigenous
me
Peoples
too.
Day.
Yeah. Oh, it's a huge day here in Los Angeles.
I got to
But
say,
you-
though.
you-
What, who?
Well, I mean, so just to start, we start with very specific. We start with like a Native American musical treatment, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of subtle, but it's audible. It kicks
Yeah.
off the movie, and it's even swung a little bit. It's even swung,
Yeah.
which is maybe kind of a little continuity because Anything Goes. It's kind of swung a little bit too. But
I'd never heard it before. I really started.
I'm so
examining
glad you
this
said
either.
that.
I never noticed that before.
Yeah.
I've seen this
Yeah.
movie 100 times, and until I sat
Yeah.
down to take notes, like, I watched it, I don't know, earlier this summer or something for the first time in, maybe a decade. And then I sat down to take notes. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Was that always there?
I mean,
Hey, how are
No,
you?
totally.
Hey, how are you? Like,
hey,
really?
yeah, exactly. They're continuing the sort of Temple of Doom racism thing there.
Well,
a
I mean,
little
yeah,
bit.
but I mean, you're talking about like, I don't know, you're talking about Christopher Columbus and stuff, but honestly, I don't know like what the point of the why is that? Is that just to like kind of set the
Well,
scene?
okay,
Like, okay, it's Utah,
look,
it's the wilderness, it's the 1912 or whatever.
Well,
It's like
there's a lot more in this script.
Wait.
We're already in Temple of Doom territory here. But there's a lot more.
we are.
There's a lot more in this script that calls out kind of the Native American elements of what's about to happen in this opening
Mm-hmm.
scene.
But the way this plays, and we talked about this every minute in Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a little bit. Hey, look, it's minute one. I'm not going there. It's fine.
Right.
I never noticed it. And I never noticed it, and I thought, okay, so is this going to be something that has to do... I mean, it's fascinating that Temple of Doom... that this movie, The Last Crusade, opens up in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess, I should say opens up in North America.
yeah.
See, that's how I'm treating this, to let everybody know. No, there's a South America, too, and that's where Raiders is.
Whoa.
Everybody's American here, north or south, but it opens up in the United States, which is it's interesting. It's as the American or the Westerner, it's a little bit less of the exotic locale for us here in
Yeah.
Cleveland, Ohio. But it's like you're setting it up and you're expecting sort of a huge, I don't know, like Native American theme, maybe.
I think with this, with this, chanting or whatever, singing we're hearing, you expect like Bobby Brady with like like a flashlight full of baked beans, giving it to some kid.
Oh my God, I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm so mad at you, Bobby Brady with baked beans and a flashlight. No, that's absolutely right. And I wanted to know, is that, one of the questions we ask, is the music setting the tone for the scene, or are there Native Americans in this canyon playing this right now?
Well, the weirdest thing about the thing that makes it so weird is that it plays for maybe 10 seconds and then it's gone for the rest of the movie.
It's very subtle. Yeah. Like so subtle, none of us had ever heard it before.
That's absolutely right. And it's very specifically supposed to be, I guess, I say a Hollywood version of like traditional Native American. They didn't even go with like kind of a, like a, a rip-off, quote, Magnificent Seven or something, which kind of would have been like, a Western theme.
But it is interesting because we immediately then get this, like these opening shots all look like they're right out of a John Ford Monument Valley, like sweeping Western epic.
That's true.
Which apparently they were thinking of possibly filming in Monument Valley. But I think, I can't remember if it was Steven Spielberg. I think he said, no, that's kind of sacred. That's John Ford's territory. We're not going to film in Monument Valley.
Really?
Yes.
And they also wanted to film in Mesa Verde, which is pretty close to here, which is down in the Four Corners area, which has those amazing Pueblo ruins.
Yeah.
And a lot of the local nations got together and said they thought that would be disrespectful. And as our friend Jamie, the archaeologist, and I were discussing, and she said, I think that's fair. After Temple of Doom.
Oh, by the way, Pete, this this entire opening sequence filmed in Arches, right? Moab, Arches National Park.
Arches National Park.
This reminds me so well of the time that you and I visited Monument Valley, which is a place that is sacred to me, immortalized by the Marlboro Man and all those ads from like the 80s. And growing up in flat, gray Cleveland, Ohio, I always wanted to know, where the hell is this place? Where is this place? Where can you find, I'd only been to, like, furthest west I'd been was Iowa, and that didn't look like you wanted to smoke cigarettes. And so And so you told me, Pete, I'll never forget, we were in college, and you said, hey, that's Monument Valley, where those are filmed, those famous, mesas and buttes and all that. And then, Pete, you hand-delivered me to Monument Valley yourself in our rental car. And I'm never going to forget it because we found $250 in the middle of the highway outside Flagstaff, Arizona, in some young woman's purse. And we were driving to Las Vegas at the time. And we were going to go to Las Vegas.
We were both pretty much broke.
And I said, of course, and this is pretty much how the podcast is. I go, Pete, there's $250 in this purse, and we're going to Las Vegas. We're the luckiest chums in the world. And you said, Jer, I know you want to put that all on red, but I just wouldn't feel right. As a matter of fact, it might not even be good karma unless we need to actually deliver this to the appropriate authorities.
Wow.
And we drove to the Flagstaff police station.
That's right.
And gave the purse. We surrendered. I like to use the word surrendered the purse. And then we went to Vegas. And what happened?
We won a bunch of money.
Hey.
Yeah, we won
Yeah.
$1,500. It's the only reason I'm doing this podcast with you now is because you're like a moral rabbit's foot.
I'm your talisman.
And you did the greatest thing. You said about 15 minutes before we won the money, we go, hey, what are we gonna do if we win? We both win money. If only one of us wins money and hits the $1 million jackpot. Like one of us is gonna have a horrible time in Las Vegas. The other guy's gonna be celebrating and going bananas while the other guy's staying in a Motel 6. And you said, you know what? We're gonna split our winnings. Any earnings over, I think it was $100, we're going to split. And then you literally won $1,250. And
that was great.
Not 6 seconds went by and you handed me $600.
Wow.
And, $625. I said, wow, I can't believe this Pete Mummert. He really is a good guy.
That's our Pete.
And just for, a nice little ending to the story, about 6 weeks after that trip, I got a lovely, lovely thank you note that said, from a young woman out west, and it said, hey, thank you so much for returning my purse and my ID and all of the $250 in there to the penny. You've restored my faith in humanity.
Aw.
And I went, first, of course, I showed it to my parents. I said, see, this wasn't this whole thing. Yeah, I'm not that bad,
Gerry,
all right?
why did you do that?
I got a C- in spelling, but, and then I put it up on the mantelpiece above the fireplace.
You're taking spelling in college?
We went to we went to Indiana. We did have
We
spelling
went to
in college.
Indiana, yeah. And the craziest part of all, remember Bill Yellow?
Yeah, I was going to bring up Bill Yellow.
Bill Yellow.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Tell. What do you remember about Bill Yellow? He's very specific to Monument Valley. Bill Yellow, if you're out there, we're talking about you.
We were talking about you,
Don't
Bill
stare
Yellow.
in my house. Yeah, I know you're out there.
Yeah, Bill Yellow was a shaman. He lived in Monument Valley, and he gave tours. And somehow he gave us a tour in his Jeep.
No, it was his cousin, I think.
Oh, was it his cousin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. His cousin told us about Bill Yellow and how he would place hexes on people by staring at their houses.
Yeah.
And he had this long, all these crazy long stories.
And he
became pretty good friends with his cousin.
Yeah, he lived on like a promontory.
Mm-hmm.
Like he kind of like one with the land sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he lived in a Hoan.
I think when I think that was on weekends. I think he kind of truly lived off the land. What
Yeah.
his cousin said. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we go way back with this movie. And it's interesting because we get speaking of sacred, we're talking a lot about on our where we have been, depending on when this airs, on our Patreon show, we've been doing a lot of stuff about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We've been discussing that movie kind of the way we discuss Indiana Jones here. And I think it's interesting because as soon as the music leaves the kind of native music at the beginning, the Native American music, it goes into what sounds almost exactly like that opening Close Encounters music, like with just a sense of tension and mystery.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Kind of builds for a while. And then, the camera pans down and you get this really sweeping vista, and you get what looks like kind of a U.S. cavalry group riding through the valley.
Oh, you didn't want me to say they were Boy Scouts. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. In the script, it very specifically says a trail of U.S. cavalry horses goes down on the valley floor, and then when you see later that they're Boy Scouts, it's like a big surprise.
See, okay, as soon as you said
And
that...
the script does that over and over.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll point some of those out, but it's very fun. It's very proud of itself that it tricks the viewer.
I don't want to skip ahead, but I mean, is that supposed to be... Did you ever think that was like a reveal when that happens?
Well, I was wondering that. Yeah, I was wondering that because I've just remembered this since I saw it. I don't know if, and since it's only like a minute and a half of the movie, it's hard to tell it.
Right.
A reveal sounds a little strong.
Right. Oh my God, they're Boy Scouts.
They're Boy Scouts, yeah.
This movie cannot be trusted.
But
keep my
what
eye
I
on this
noticed is when the music turns sinister, I feel like we, the viewer, are perched on this promontory overlooking a band of, unsuspecting cavalry Boy Scouts. And it's like I feel like the scene is set up like I'm Black Bart about to ambush, Troop 422.
Yeah. Or we're just Tusken Raiders.
Or
Yeah, I was gonna-
is like,
yeah.
are we the man in the fedora? Is that his viewpoint? I'm just
No,
saying.
I don't think he has. I don't think. Well, we'll get
Okay.
there. I'm not. I don't think he has any idea anybody's coming.
Yeah, I feel like he's already where we find him, probably at this point.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. I mean, but it's an interesting choice. It's like we're in
Yeah.
the movie. Like it's the way it shows. It's like we're spying on the Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get we'll get a shot in a couple minutes or a few seconds where you kind of ride up to one of the famous arches and it's kind of a POV shot where you ride past a tree, like you are one of the Boy Scouts for a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do like that you brought up the native Tatooiners riding single file. So are we already in fever dream territory? Like, is this already Han remembering?
I've
did
seen
you-
a lot of movies. I've never heard of anybody else riding single file before. I think it's a strictly Star Wars thing. So yes.
Pete, did you expect anything else?
Yeah.
This is our third.
No,
this is our third movie.
I'm happy Tom brought it up though. Thank you.
Oh, you-
Although I'm gonna make you mad now.
Who, me?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Why?
unfortunately turn the tables here. Every time I watch this, I have great fear that there's going to be a CGI gopher as they're painting across that sagebrush.
And Kenny Loggins is going to start playing. I understand your fear.
I mean, after the last movie, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I don't think Jared knows.
You were, you were Tommy. You were a den mother, weren't you?
I was
Don't you-
for a brief period. For 2 years, I think.
A cub matron.
I just totally
What do they
accept
call
that.
it?
Yeah. No, I was a den mother.
A woolly mistress. What are they? What is it? It's not
I was
a den
a
mother. What is it?
hodgepodge lodge dude. I don't know. I was a den leader. I was a den leader.
Oh, a den leader,
Yes.
not a den mother.
Thank you.
All right.
For the Cub
And
Scouts.
how
yeah.
was that? Yeah.
I am not cut out to be a den leader. I am not I am not an organizer of people nor kids. I'm the guy who okay, here now take this piece of paper and fold it this. Oh my God, they're not folding the paper. Why aren't they folding the paper? I'm the adult. I'm standing there. Well, all right. We're just gonna wait out the clock. Everyone just run around in circles. Okay, meeting's over.
So I would assume you'd find the one smart kid in the den.
Yeah.
To quote the den, and you'd be like, "All right, Sagebrush, whatever your name is, you're gonna. Why don't you show everybody how to make the origami giraffe?"
Yeah, you're my special deputy.
Exactly. and then you just kind of, whatever he goes. Well, there weren't any instructions. You were supposed to bring it. Oh, really?
Oh, are there
can't-
instructions in the wild, Sagebrush? If we were trapped out in the wilderness, would there be instructions? Always be prepared, you punk.
Did you guys ever want to be Boy Scouts when you were kids?
I didn't.
Yeah, I always wanted to,
Oh.
but I never was.
I have mixed feelings. Like, we, meaning my son and I, quit Cub Scouts after, I think, 3 years. And,
Did you really?
yeah, and I feel a little guilty about it. Not guilty, but I'm like, there's a sense of like, oh, what if he had stayed in? Like, what if I hadn't been the den leader and it would have been less stressful for me? And then I wouldn't have forced
more
him to
fun
quit.
for him.
No, I didn't force him to
Yeah.
quit. But, I don't know. I have mixed feelings
How do you
about
quit? I mean, how do you quit Cub Scouts? Do you God damn it? You throw your cup down?
it. Yeah, you take your kerchief and you chuck it on the ground. You go find an American flag and touch that to the ground, which is a huge no-no.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I wanted to be one exactly up until the 4th grade.
Yeah.
And then I met Renee Vince.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, I discovered girls and I wasn't interested in kindling anymore.
Oh, weren't you, Gerry? Rubbing sticks together, Gerry. Can't start a fire without a spark.
I was hoping Renee Vince was going to be
Yeah.
a young male archaeologist in training.
Yeah. Or a wrestler.
I don't know.
A
She
little Belloc.
truly left and became that girl you guys don't know about in Canada.
Yeah.
Like, I think she moved to Montreal.
Well, didn't they just start letting? They just announced that girls can join the Boy Scouts now.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
You were born in the wrong era, Jerry.
You don't
could
just
had
have
your cake
to.
and ate it too.
Yeah. It's not just rubbing sticks together anymore.
No.
Tommy.
No. Rubbing.
Okay, terrible. All right.
Oh, I got something to say. I like the
Yeah.
return of the Raiders of the Lost Ark font in the credits.
Yeah. This whole beginning feels exactly like Raiders. Like
Yeah.
everything from the
Hold on to that
kind
thought.
of quiet beginning with these unknown people trekking through the wilderness and the music slowly building. And you get, like, it just feels almost exactly like the beginning of Raiders.
I was gonna say, like
Spielberg said, we're going to go back to what we know worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thesis almost of this movie, or maybe of this show. I don't know. Just that. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that. Is this movie just Raiders 2 or something, or like Raiders redo, or
Yeah.
yeah. To the point where it's
Well,
like you've got this line of you find out they're kids on horseback, and it's the beginning of a Raiders movie. Like anywhere, are we supposed to assume that? Half of these guys are going to head for the hills and then the rest are going to be slaughtered one by one or something. Tipo style.
Yeah. It does build a lot of a sense of menace here that I'm not sure.
It does. What's interesting is the movie starts, it's a very subtle creeping up, taking our time intro, which is very much like Raiders and quite a contrast to the opening Anything Goes in Temple of Doom, which again was my favorite part of the movie of Temple of Doom. So I thought that was a great intro, but this is a very, very different thing here.
And it's interesting because that began with Willie Scott holding up her hands and saying Harrison Ford starring in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this one has got a very quiet, Steven Spielberg film, Harrison Ford starring in, and it's a very low key.
There's nothing splashed on the screen with red dragon flaming nostrils.
Right.
And remember, the font was different. I think the font in this is just, isn't it just like kind of white?
Yeah,
it's kind of like the Raiders font.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there is going to be that push. We talked about this a lot during Temple of Doom, that like, a lot of people had the opinion, like, gosh, they really tried something different with Temple of Doom, and if it had worked, Last Crusade would have been a completely different movie. They would have just had the mandate to like just go and do different stuff and not like kind of repeat themselves. And it's too bad that Temple of Doom wasn't better received in that sense.
Yeah, to me, that was the magic at Temple of Doom. Is it just completely? Some people might say went off the rails, but they went completely in a different direction, and they took a lot of chances. And I'll be curious how we feel about this, if this is taking chances or it's sort of playing it safe the whole way.
Should we say, like, starting off right now, like kind of how we feel about this movie?
Well, I'll say, because at the beginning of Temple of Doom, I was like, I kind of like it, but by the end of it, I was like, I adore this movie.
Yeah.
And I've always loved Last Crusade, so I'll be curious if that holds up.
Yeah, and if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, well, I know that Last Crusade is sort of better, but I'm more of a Temple of Doom guy because it's a little more authentic. It's a little more actually Indiana Jones or something. And then we did Temple of Doom, and I don't know what to believe anymore. I feel like I still like it, but it's like, I'm just too close to it now. I can't even think about it really. And Last Crusade, it's like 100% solid. I like it a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
And watching it more recently, there were things that I was prepared to hate about it that I was like, oh, that's not as bad as people build it up to be and stuff. But there is that safeness to it that might wear on me over time. We'll see. But I love it so far.
Yeah.
Minute one.
I have yet to turn my homework in.
Oh, Jerry.
I'm asking for an extension to Wednesday. I haven't finished the movie.
Are you dead serious?
I'm dead serious.
Well, that's awesome. How far
don't
are
worry.
you?
I've watched minute 1. We're all good.
That's all you were
watched.
supposed to do. You're good.
I was all I was
Someone
supposed to do.
spoiled the Boy Scout thing for you already.
Oh, yeah, they're Boy Scouts, Jerry. Sorry. How far are you? I'm curious.
If I tell you, it'll give it away.
Technically, yeah.
No, I'm like
You don't have to answer.
2/3. Yeah,
I've made you
I
uncomfortable. I'm sorry.
Yes, I've watched a lot of the movie.
Okay.
A substantial portion.
That sounds
I'll pick
good.
it up. Yes.
Hey, you know why we do like the credits? One thing that's really great in the credits? Top billing, Denham Elliott.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
back.
That's nice.
And by the way, I was recently listening to a book, Anthony Beevor's History of the Second World War, and I sort of found out that Denham Elliott, the person, may be one of the most interesting people that's ever lived.
I always assume so.
His dad was a Solicitor General in what was then British-controlled Palestine in 1930, and was assassinated outside of the King David Hotel.
Whoa.
And then Denham, as we used to like to call Denholm, went on to study drama in college and was asked to leave the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London after just one term.
Whoa.
He had kind of a bad experience.
Yes,
and so then he joined
C- minus in spelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did not return purse. And then he, during the war, he signed up for the Royal Air Force. And in 1942, he was in a bombing raid on the U-boat pens in Flensburg, Germany, which is interesting because, we had scenes filmed in actual U-boat pens. And his plane was hit by flak and crashed into the North Sea. And he was captured by the Germans and spent the rest of the war as a prisoner of war in Poland.
God. Man.
Jeez.
And he sort of got involved again in acting while he was in prison camp.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like, man, that's as interesting as Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Man. I'm just picturing him in every role I've seen him, and I'm like, oh, that guy did that. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I think that's exactly what I would expect from a Raiders of the Lost Ark Marcus.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious.
Yeah.
What's the Last Crusade Marcus like? Considering, once again, I did take that as my confirmation name. So I'm going to be paying close attention.
We'll see
Yes.
if you keep that as a confirmation name.
Might have to switch it to Peter, meaning or Petra. Petra, right?
Yeah. Then we get Alison Doody.
Yeah.
She was only 23 when they made this, and she thought she's Irish actually, and she didn't think she had a shot at getting this role at all.
Oh, wow.
But she got it. I think she brought sort of an enormous, amazing amount of gravity to this role for somebody so young. Like,
Yeah.
because Karen Allen was 30 when they made Raiders, and Alison Doody, I think, plays like she's a much older, much more mature person in this movie, which I think is
Yeah.
a pretty amazing acting job.
This might be one of the points that
Good
I
point.
am paying close attention to for this movie. Is that I like her a lot. She's good in this movie. And I like her character. But she's, people loved Marion and they hated
Yeah.
Willie. And you almost hear nothing
some people.
about, we went through a weird tunnel with that. But you don't, no one's like, oh my gosh, Alison Doody. Or, Alison, like there seems to be not a lot of opinion one way or the other about her. And I'm interested to see if we can figure out what that is. Like why? I hope I'm not spoiling the movie for you, Gerry, that you haven't watched yet.
No, I think I know why that is.
All right.
Yeah, I think I know why that is.
But yeah,
Why-
that's something I
Yeah.
want to pay attention to.
Okay.
So yeah, if we get the famous balanced rock here at the
Yeah.
end of this minute.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's a little bit anachronistic because there was another balanced rock that stood next to it until the 1970s that got pushed over.
Oh, really?
It's no longer in the... Yeah, it's called Chip Off the Old Block, and that's gone. in this.
What do you mean it got pushed over?
Well, I don't know if it got someone pushed it over like
Oh.
a storm or something. Somehow it fell.
Some jerk.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question here. If Arches, became a national monument in 1929, which it did, and this is taking place in 1912,
Mm-hmm.
whose land are the Boy Scouts on? Like Old Man Hanging
Yeah.
Rock?
Yeah. The kid with the flashlight full of beans.
Yeah. Or maybe, are they supposed to be like trespassing on the Native American territory there?
Yeah, or what if they come across the true owner in a cave coming up or something? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
it
is
never
it?
occurred to me.
I don't know what it was before. Was it
Yeah.
public land?
Well, yeah, was it a reservation
Just
or was
no
it?
man?
It was part of the United States, right? It was Utah's a state.
Oh,
I don't know.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Well, like maps and stuff. You talking maps? Talking like history and stuff?
No, I don't know. Did they? We should look it up. Did they? Who did they? That's homework. I'll have it for
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Okay, good. I like you're not gonna have it for
Yeah, no.
Tuesday, but you'll have it Wednesday. Yeah, we get in the script. It's very intentionally called out that we think this is a U.S. Army cavalry unit rather than a scouting party.
That's weird. So they fake out the person who's reading the script? That's kind of weird. That's
Yeah,
weird.
and then they kind of like they kind of when they reveal it, like it's like, you know, your jaw drops in amazement as you realize it's actually Boy Scouts. They do that several times.
Wow, really? See, I don't know. I'm glad that that would have been stupid. That would have felt dumb. Like, oh, whimsy, it's children. Oh, you got me, movie. Oh dear.
But they kind of did it. But
They kind of did it.
I don't know if they did.
didn't
I feel
pull
like
it out.
that's what I'm saying. I feel like I see them as maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember the first time I saw it. Like if I thought like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, there's Boy Scouts outside on horseback in the wilderness. What's happening?
And there are two more of those kind of sleight of hands coming up in the next 5 minutes.
Huh.
So they had fun with that.
All right. I'm not a big fan of fun, but okay. We'll see. Maybe we just.
Oh, wait a minute.
Whoa,
Wait a
geez.
minute.
What?
Oh.
What? Who?
There's something coming over the wire. This just in from Professor Christy Porter. I think she's this is movie number 3. I think she's tenured.
Oh, there you go.
Boy Scouts are riding single file to hide their
Oh, that's the
Hey.
kid.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Look at that. She both makes
Oh.
me seem less clever and brilliant at the same time.
Yes, yes. You guys,
There's an act
or
for
you
that.
guys have known each other a long time.
Oh my God, a long time.
A long time.
Well, all right. Now that Christy Porter has made her presence known, it's time to wrap up minute 1 of Last Crusade. Pete, we haven't done
Yes.
this in a while. Where can everybody find us and shout to the world that we're back and that they can rejoin the conversation that is already in progress?
You come check us out on Facebook in our Facebook group, Indiana Jones Minute and the Listeners Crusade, where we have lots of fun discussions about each minute, a little more in-depth stuff. And if you like Steven Spielberg movies, check us out on Patreon. You can find us on our website, indianajonesminute.com/Patreon. And we've been talking about Jaws. We've been talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and maybe some more Steven Spielberg stuff coming up. So check that out.
Yeah, other stuff too. It's not just going to be Spielberg, but we're starting off with some Spielbergses. And we're just having fun, man.
Yeah, did some Indiana Jones comics.
Yeah. We did one of those. But yeah, please join us in all those places. Share the love. And please, more than anything, come back here tomorrow for minute 2 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Jones.
Oh yeah, Jones. Jones.